Okay, so honorable judges, dear students, good morning. Thank you for your patience. After another 20 seconds, you will be set. After another 20 minutes, you will be set free. So please have a good time in the last 20 minutes. Okay. First, I have one question for you. Do you want to study abroad? Yes. If the answer is yes, so which country do you want to go to? Britain. Why go to Britain?
Because I'm practicing my Britain accent.
British accent. Okay,
Yes.
good. So, does any one of you want to go to the US? Does any one of you want to go to the US? No? But today we are going to talk about a passage concerning US. Okay, now let's come to the passage today. The title of this passage is Why the Americans Are So Restless. Okay, first, let's have a look at the tasks we are going to complete in this lesson. The first one is brainstorming. In this part, we are going to talk about something related to America. Second is text comprehension. And the third one is Have Your Say. Actually, Have Your Say is a program made by the BBC. And in this program, you can voice your different opinions or views on different issues. And this is a highlight of this class because I have chosen 3 sentences for you to discuss their translations. So your comments are warmly and highly appreciated in this part. And the fourth one is class summary. Next one is assignments and further exploration. Okay, now let's come to the first part. Brainstorming. One question for you. What will you think of when we mention the US or America? What will you think of? Got any ideas? Powerful, okay. Anything else? Madonna, okay. Anything else? Actually, we can think of quite a lot of things when we talk about America, right? And we can see that the list goes on and on and on. Okay, next question. What do we think of when we talk about American democracy? Anything pops up in your mind? All men are created equal, right? Anything else? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. Let's look at this picture. In this picture, we have the legislative branch, and also we have the executive branch and the judicial branch. So what do we call this in Chinese? 三权分立, right? So how to say in English? Have no idea? It should be the separation of powers. Separation of powers, okay. Next picture. This one is frequently seen, This picture is frequently seen in history books, right? So, got an idea? We have 2 animals here, a donkey and an elephant, right? So actually, the 2 animals represent the 2 major political parties in the US, right? So the donkey represents which party? No idea? What are the 2 major political parties in the US? It should be the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, right? So the donkey represents the Democratic Party and the elephant represents the Republican Party, right? Okay. So next, let's come to the text comprehension. First, I would like to give you some background information. Actually, this passage we are going to learn today comes from the English translated version of Democracy in America, which was written by Tocqueville in French originally. And also, we have its corresponding Chinese version. If you want to have a deep understanding about American democracy, I strongly recommend that you read this book, okay? So now let's come to the questions directly since you're very familiar with this text. Okay, the first one. How does the author characterize the American people in this passage? Can you find the answer? Actually, it's very easy for you to find the answer in paragraph. Which paragraph? Yes, paragraph 2, right? Actually, we can see that American people are the freest and the best educated, but they are not the happiest because they never stop thinking of and chasing after things they haven't got, right? Okay, second one. What do the former and latter in paragraph 3 refer to? The former refers to the people in the old world, and the latter refers to people in the new world, that is, the Americans, right? Okay, next one. In terms of the writing techniques, what can you learn from this passage? Actually, you can find answer in paragraph 6. So in paragraph 6, we can find that the writer uses so many examples, right? It's examples to support his argument. So that is to support your argument with concrete examples and to use the parallel structures when you write a paragraph or a composition, right? Okay. So now it's your show time, okay? Have your say. Let's see the first sentence I have chosen for you. Actually, this is a sentence coming from paragraph 2, right? And you can find that here I stress the word cloud, and I underline the part cloud habitually hung on their brows. Okay, first, can you visualize the picture when people have a cloud hung over their brows? Can you visualize the picture? Maybe like this, right? When you frown, you have a cloud hung over your brows. Okay, think about its translation. How to translate it? Anyone got any idea? How to translate?
像眉眼间愁云密布这种。
眉眼间愁云密布. Okay, good. And different answers? 眉头深锁. Okay, good. Okay, let's see the two different versions. After comparison, the blue parts, you can find that the only difference is the preservation of the image cloud, right? So in the first version, the image isn't preserved, but in the second version, the image is preserved, right? But in the two versions, the message is conveyed exactly, right? So in this scenario, the image can be preserved or not preserved. So both are okay, both are acceptable because they exactly convey the message. But sometimes there is no need to preserve the image, right? Let's see an example. Over here, you can see 鸦雀无声. Okay, so how to translate 鸦雀无声? Silence. Do you need to translate it into the crows and the sparrows are silent? No, right? Okay. Actually, you can see that utterly quiet can work out, right? So in this scenario, actually the image, there is no need to preserve the image, right? So whether to preserve the image or not depends on the context, okay? But still, there are some exceptions. When the image has rich cultural connotations, how are we going to deal with them? As we all know that now our country is pressing ahead with the promotion of a traditional Chinese culture to the foreign countries. And one of the greatest difficulties we have come across is how to exactly convey the cultural connotations of the culturally loaded words. Culturally loaded words means 文化负载词, right? To the foreign people. I will give you one example. We can find this sentence from the Analects. And we know that 君子 is a concept frequently occurring in the Analects. I will give you two versions of its translation. Okay, we can find that it is translated into the superior man or gentleman. Do you think that the superior man or gentleman can cover its cultural connotations? So what's the image of 君子 in your mind? Actually, a 君子 has to be a man of virtues, right? And of course, a man of high social status. And he has to be erudite, and he has to be benevolent and righteousness, and so on, right? So these cultural connotations cannot be just covered in a gentleman. There's simply the simple word. Okay, so how to deal with that? How to deal with that? You said just translate it as 君子, right? Actually, this is exactly the dealing method. We use transliteration plus further explanation. Do you know what does transliteration mean? Transliteration means 音译, right? We just put it in another language, and then we add some further explanations. Because we can find that only a gentleman or superior man cannot cover the cultural connotations, okay? So in this case, we studied how to deal with the images and deal with the culturally loaded words in different contexts. Okay, now let's come to the second sentence. And you can find the sentence in paragraph 5. And I stressed the conjunction words in this sentence. Okay, I will give you one version of its translation. How do you feel about that? The message is right, but it's not that beautiful, right? It's a little bit rigid because you can find all the conjunction words in the Chinese. Okay, now I will give you another version. How do you like this one? It's much better than the first one, right? But what is the difference here? You may notice that there is a lack of conjunction words in the second version, right? And I will give you an explanation. Well, a top-notch interpreter once said that English is like a train, while Chinese is like a fan. Why is English like a train? Because you can see that between each carriage is connected by the couplings, right? And we can make an analogy that is the conjunction words function as couplings to connect each part in the sentence in English. But for Chinese, we know that our Chinese is like the wandering clouds and flowing waters. Sometimes we do not have so many conjunction words to make our logic explicit. We know that we Chinese have a phrase, 只可意会不可言传, right? So in Chinese, the logic is sometimes hidden, is implicit, right? So this is the exact difference between Chinese and English. So on the other hand, if you translate Chinese into English, remember to add the conjunction words to make the logic much clearer. Okay, now let's come to the third sentence. This is the last paragraph, and here I stress the word before. Well, actually, we have thousands of ways to translate before, but sometimes when we come across the word before, we always translate it as 在什么什么之前. For example, in a simultaneous interpreting, we have a sentence like this: every country must honor its commitment before the agreement expires. So sometimes you may just translate it as 每个国家都必须履行承诺，在协议到期之前. Actually, in this scenario, 在协议到期之前 is not a complete sentence. But actually, you can try another way of expressing it. Translate it as 每个国家必须履行承诺，直到协议到期为止. Right? So, in this case, if you translate this version, it's acceptable because the message is there. But it's not that readable, it's not that beautiful, and not that idiomatic. So can you come up with some ways to revise this? Some ways to revise this. Just try to put it in another way. Got any ideas? No? Okay, let's see these two versions. Especially the second version. 直到死亡终于到来，他都未曾厌倦. Right? Actually, this is another way of translation, and the translator doesn't directly translate the sentence. Right, let's see more examples. First one, seeing is believing. A common scene example, right? 百闻不如一见. You can see that 不如 is a way of reversion, right? Second one, let sleeping dogs lie. 莫要惹是生非 and 莫要, right? It's another way of expression. Third one, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. 双鸟在林不如一鸟在手. So they all use the technique of reversion just to put it in another way in translation. Okay, now it's your time. Have a try. Well, this is a frequently seen picture in in foreign countries. So how to translate it? Wet paint. 湿的油漆. Exactly good. 油漆未干. Right? Okay, another one. Keep upright. Keep upright. Try to put it in another way. How to translate? Got any ideas? 易碎品. Anything else? 切勿倒置. Right? Okay. Okay, now let's come to a summary part. Well, in this class, we have learned the cultural elements. That is the separation of powers and the major political parties in the US. And also we learned some translation skills, whether to preserve the image or not in the passage, and also how to express the cultural connotations of specific terms, depend on the context, right? And how to express the cultural connotations of the terms. We use transliteration plus further explanation, right? Okay, next, in the second sentence, we learned about how to deal with the conjunction words in Chinese and English. And in the last part, we learned that we should not translate in a word-for-word way, and we use reversion in translation. Well, actually, as majors of translation and interpreting, you should not just focus on the acquisition of the translation skills. So in every class, we should combine the cultural elements and knowledge, background knowledge of specific fields together with the process of learning the translation skills. Remember? So if you're not quite familiar with the cultural elements, please make a further research on this. Okay. Now let's come to the assignments part. Actually, the first two parts related to the language points and the translation part. But the third part, in order to develop your critical thinking ability, I have an essay for you. So write a short essay on the following topic after you watch the video clip. That is there anything wrong with American democracy? Okay, now let's watch this video clip. Oh, sorry.
Princeton study by these two political scientists, Martin Gilens and Ben Page. The largest empirical study of actual decisions by our government in the history of political science, relating those to the attitudes of the elites, organized interest groups, and the average voter. So what they found was, for the economic elites, as you go from the elites supporting an idea at 0% to 100%, probability of that idea being enacted goes up. Same thing for organized interest groups. As a small number support it to a large number support it, the probability of it being enacted into law goes up. Here's the graph for the average voter. It's a flat line, literally and figuratively. What this says is, doesn't matter the percentage of the average voter who supports an idea, it doesn't change the probability that that idea will actually be enacted. As they put it in English, when the preferences of the economic elites and the stands of organized interest groups are controlled for, the preferences of the average American appear to have a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact on public policy in a democracy.
Okay, so in this video, Lawrence thinks there is something wrong with American democracy. So what's your viewpoint? After you have made a detailed research, I hope to see your essays in next week. Okay? And now I have two books for further exploration. If you want to make deep research, I recommend you to read these two books. Okay? So did you have good time in the last 20 minutes? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much for the teaching. I have two questions for you. My first question is really about the focus of this lesson. Mm-hmm. What is the focus? What are you trying to achieve with the students at the end of the class? Because in your teaching, I saw you talked about the writing, how they should learn, to use parallel structures, how they should even, substantiate with examples. And you also talked about how they may use the strategy of reversion to deal with, prepositions like before. And also, particularly how, the cultural image should be preserved or deleted in the translation. So what is really the focus of your teaching?
Well, actually, considering the students for this class is the freshmen or sophomores of the BPI students, I think that in this stage, the most important thing is to consolidate their language foundation. So in this class, actually, my purpose is to tell the basic translation skills. And as I have said in my class, for the majors of translations and interpreters, they should combine the knowledge of specific fields into the process of the acquisition of the translation skills. Therefore, my major purpose of this class is to let them know some basics of the translation skills, while they should know something about American democracy, the cultural elements.
Anyway, I'm debating whether I should ask you a follow-up question, but I think I won't. And the other thing is about your sort of teaching philosophy. What do you believe should be the sort of proper roles of a teacher and also the students in the translation classroom? What kind of relationship do you believe the teacher should have with the student will be most conducive to their learning? And how is that reflected in your teaching today?
Okay, first, I think that actually for translation teachers, they should not just dominate the class. Actually, they should act like a facilitator in this class to facilitate the acquisition of the translation skills of the students. Therefore, the teacher should prepare the thought-provoking questions for the students to inspire them to answer and to share their views on the translation. And therefore, in this class, I think that I have prepared some thought-provoking questions for the students to reflect or to have their voice, have their opinion voiced on the different translations. So that's my view on your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.